So I actually was gonna start the show off speaking about something totally different because I'm already ripping and roaring, and I'm upset about a whole different thing this morning. That has to deal with a political thing. It's not even in the title. Just so we can be clear, it's not in the title. But today, what we are going to talk about, just so we can be clear, is I just want to let y'all know that they moved the Taxstone sentencing. His sentencing was moved. I was already informed that the sentencing was moved. We started the show yesterday morning. So we start the show. The show's going. Somebody came into the chat. Team Nova came into the chat. It's like, yo, Jake, why ain't you at the courthouse over these? I was like, you know what? Somebody told me it was a thing. So it wasn't happening for whatever the reason. He was like, nah, man, you got to get on it. I said, you know what? You are kind of correct. I need to go to the courthouse, even if I know that has been canceled or has been postponed. This is the major case that we were doing, our major case that we were doing. So I need to be to the courthouse. I need to hear it directly from the people at the courthouse. I went down to the courthouse. They told me personally, I believe the date is June 20th now. I think, first of all, thank you for moving the date from May 25th. I thought that was not very tactful. Being as May 25th is also the date of the incident that he was found guilty of. So I thought that was not very tactful. So I am happy that they actually moved the date, just so we could be clear. I saw a couple of people put out some posts on. I didn't get an opportunity to repost. I wish I did. I saw a couple of people put RIP Bang. I saw a couple of people put out some posts basically saying the same. Trife Gangster I saw, and he reposted a post basically that Troy Ave put up. So I thought that was dope. I thought that was dope. Just so we can be clear. Anyway, so the sentencing has been moved. Um, I guess we'll get on it. We'll see how that work out. In any regard, also Fetty Wap has been sentenced. He's been sentenced to 6 years. There's a couple of things I want to say on that real quick, and then we can get back to the Taxstone thing, and then I'll give you an opportunity that we could discuss whichever aspect of this that you will prefer. Now, with that being said, Fetty Wap has just recently been sentenced. He's been sentenced to 6 years. I'm not 100% sure how many years he's already done locked up. It's been a couple. So he's going to have some years time served. I think he's going to be out in like 2 or something like that. I think I heard somewhere like that down the line. It might be less than that. I'm not 100% sure. In any regard, the thing that Fetty Wap was locked up for, apparently some dudes, they go to a whole nother state. They go pick up some drugs. At least this is what the FBI said happened. They go to pick up some drugs when they on the way back, I believe, and they took the monies and then they coming back with all of the drugs. So on the way back, I believe what they're saying is happening is apparently they got picked up. And when they got picked up, apparently also they immediately started screaming out, just so we could be done, just so we could be clear, immediately started screaming out. Fetty Wap was the one that sent them. I'm not 100% sure if that's what happened. I just want to be clear on this. I'm saying this is what was actually reported. This is what was reported when these guys got arrested. One of the things that was reported, just so we could be clear, is that they immediately named Fetty Wap, and that's how come the FBI got Fetty Wap's name. Now, he was arrested. These dudes are facing RICO charges. Apparently, he wasn't, for whatever the reason is. He had just had a sentencing. They sentenced him to 6 years. We were supposed to be in the courtroom, but we weren't able to make it for whatever the reason. I'll just leave it at that. I just got to do better. We just didn't make it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And also, just so we can be clear, We didn't talk about that yet, right? No, we only about 5 minutes in. We didn't talk about that yet. All right, so I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not gonna say nothing on that. All right, we'll wait. We'll wait and see if we get there. Anyway, let me get it back on. So in any regard, I thought something was interesting, right? I thought something was interesting, right? Just so we could be clear, I thought this was extremely interesting. Shout out to Darkwing, salute. I thought this was extremely interesting. Just from a okay, so remember when the pandemic started and they started moving all the court dates? First, they didn't actually move. Okay, so first they started moving all the court dates. And then after they moved the court dates, or everybody court date got pushed back like a year months. So after they moved all the court dates back, one of the things that they started doing then is they started having court, but no one in the court or whatever. They was like, yo, look, crime's not gonna stop. The judicial system can't stop. We getting backed up with the people that's been they're getting arrested now. And since we're not having any actual trials, we can't like nothing's happening. So in any regard, everything opens back up to a degree, and then now we have trials again. So one of the things that you might have noticed is, besides the fact that RICOs are going up like absolutely crazy, they haven't been really hitting a lot of people with the maximums. They haven't been hitting a lot of people with all of the time. A lot of people have been getting hit somewhere in the middle. So I saw somebody say, on one of the posts. I don't know if the post was on Instagram or if it was on YouTube. Could have been in here. Could have been in the live. But the person had wrote, or sent to me, that they believe that he's gonna get 17 years with the time he's been already locked up, with time served for the time that he's already locked up. I think 6 years, right? So he's gonna end up doing about 11 more years. So I said that sounds reasonable. That sounds sensible. We was having a conversation about this previously, and basically what I had said is that I don't think that they're gonna hit him with all of the years. I just don't think that that's gonna happen. And this is not me saying and I'm saying this specifically because of what happened in the courtroom, just so we could be clear. I'm specifically, I have this opinion because of specifically what happened in the courtroom, not because of anything else. There was two witnesses, specifically one of the people that was injured, that said that Taxstone was hit first. The person that threw the first punch was on the witness stand and said that they threw the first punch. I think that in itself, with also, I thought that this was interesting. I just want to repeat this again. I thought this was interesting. So there was a part, right, where the prosecution wanted to bring in something that Taxstone said on his podcast. So what Taxstone said on his podcast was, if anybody run down on him, that he gonna up it, basically. So the prosecution wanted to bring it in as evidence that he came to the event with the intent to go at Troy Ave. Like, the prosecution is saying, he was like basically searching Troy Ave out, and this is the proof of it. That's basically what the prosecution was saying, right? So the prosecution is like, he came to the event, and this is proof of it, because he said that when he see any of them, he gonna, whatever. And then the judge did not allow for this to be in evidence. The judge did not allow for the jury to hear this. And the reason why the judge said this is because did he specifically say Troy Ave, or was he just saying if somebody try to run up on him, he's going to defend himself, he's going to protect himself? Pardon me. Now that's what I want you to focus in on. While I don't believe Taxstone is going to get the maximum, I'm going to say it again. Listen, pay attention. So the prosecution wanted to get some evidence into court. The evidence that the prosecution wanted to get into court was Taxstone on his podcast saying that basically if anybody threatens him or runs down on him, not threatens him, but runs down on him and tries to cause him physical harm, that he gonna up it, right? So the prosecution wanted to get that in and say that that was evidence that when he came to the venue, specifically to look for Troy Ave and to create a situation where he possibly shoot Troy Ave, take Troy Ave's life, Troy Ave's people, the people. That's what the prosecution was trying to say. The judge didn't allow it. And the judge's thinking was this. The judge said, let me hear it. So she played it, he heard it. Right? But so he said no to the audio. So she said, could we get the transcript of the audio in? He said, no, that's what they did first. First, they did the transcript of the audio because she wanted to get the transcript in of what he said. So he said, okay, read it to me. So then she read it. So the judge is like, Judge Clott, shout out to Judge Clott. Judge Clott is like, I don't hear it. I don't know what you. So then Esquire, he's like, she's trying to say the thing that I just told you. And then the judge is like, he don't hear it. So she repeated it again. The judge is saying, I don't hear it. I don't hear the thing that you're saying that you're accusing him of doing. So she said, can I play the audio for you? He said, fine, play the audio. Or he asked to hear the audio. I'm not 100% clear. He might have asked to hear the audio himself. She plays the audio. When they play the audio, the judge literally says, shout out to Sebastian Tompkins. The judge literally says, it sounds to me like he's saying that if anybody comes to try to cause him harm, he's going to protect himself. Now, if you put that with the fact that the person who threw the first punch was on the stand and said that they threw the first punch, I just don't think that he's going to get all of the years. That's just my opinion. Does that make sense? I mean, you don't got to agree with me. I'm never asking anybody to agree with me. I'm just saying, do that make sense? Because that would be the prosecution also, just so we can be clear, that would be the prosecution literally admitting you understand? I don't even think that would have helped her. I think that would have helped a Taxstone. To be honest with you, I think the judge saved her from herself. I think that would have helped Taxstone. That would have been evidence because they would have said, look, listen to what I got to say real quick. Gonna take 2 seconds. Because now when you're talking and you asking Troy Ave, how many times have y'all been to events together before? And Troy Ave says, we've been to a ton of events together before and nothing never happened. We just went to and we worked and we did whatever we do. And then you add Taxstone saying the only way he's going to create a situation is if somebody do something to him. And then you add the person who literally threw the first punch saying, I threw the first punch. The judge literally prevented her from hurting her own case. Not all evidence is evidence. Shout out to Arthur D. Glass. This is morning to you. Morning to you and Sebastian Tompkins. Not all evidence is evidence, fam. Some shit is just something that happened. It's not evidence. It's a coincidence. People just think coincidences are something that they aren't. That's all I could say. The thing that people think coincidences is, I don't think that exists. But there are coincidences. The formal kind of coincidence. I think we watch too many movies. I think we watch too many movies. You got people out, you got too many people that think that they spies, detectives, gangsters, doctors. You got too many people that think that because they saw it on the television program somewhere that a person said a thing. Did those people work from actual medical books? Did they get actual doctors to help them with the terminology? Did they get lawyers to help them with the wording? So they could make sure that everything is above board, or did they just say a thing and think a thing? Remember, movies don't all exist in our universe, or always aren't intended to exist in our universe, man. Some movies are intended to exist where you got aliens and predators at, and Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and Captain Americas. We can have a Captain America, fan. We go 100%. He's not gonna have the super soldier serum or that sweet ass shield, but we can have a Captain America. He'd have to be a murdering son of a. He'd be a bad guy. He'd be a bad guy. He'd have to be a bad guy because the rest of the world is mad at America right now. So he'd be a bad guy to the rest of the world. He wouldn't be the Captain America we all know and love. Anyway, in any regard, so me myself, I don't see him getting the maximum. I don't see him getting the minimum, and that's primarily because of all of the text and Instagram posts, and primarily because of that, I don't see him getting the minimum because there's just certain level of accountability, and that's why I'm saying I don't think he's going to get the maximum. This is a certain level of accountability that has to be had. You understand? I tell you what'd be wild. What'd be super wild is if Judge Clock waits to see what Troy Ave gets. And if they let Troy Ave walk away scot-free, Judge Clock gives him the minimum. That would be wild. And if they give Troy Ave a couple of years, Clock gives him like whatever years over the minimum. That'd be wild. Like, you know what I'm saying? A little bit more like what we think, like 17. That'd be wild. Because it's all about accountability, fam. I'm going to tell you the wild shit, right? So, you ever heard the story, the winner of the war writes the history? So, the winner of the war writes the story, basically. Because when you hear his story, the his is whoever is the dominant. That's who the his is. You understand what I'm saying? The his isn't, when we say history, we're not talking about, we're talking about the winner of the war. We're talking about whoever's in control. Because that who determines what the history is, right, fam? Let's just keep it. Dude, imagine if, okay, so could we have a conversation about Florida for a minute? I want to have a conversation about Florida for a minute. Could we have a conversation about Florida for a minute? Okay, so put Florida to the side. I want to have a conversation about something. And I want to be fair. This is not an attack on anybody. I want to be clear on this. I think that if you live if you're alive, I think that you have the right to want to survive. I think that you have the right to want to prolong your existence. I think that you have the right to be, especially since we're humans and it's a God-given ability to have freedom of choice. I do believe that you have this right. I would not want to take this right away from anyone. One of the things that maturity teaches us, and I'm not saying I'm mature, so don't need to try to say I'm doing something. But one of the things that it teaches us is, right? Okay, so hold on. Because I really don't want to. That being right isn't always being right, right? So being right isn't always being right. Being right is more like you're being right for what's good for you. Like there's not a universal right. There's fact. But a lot of the time being right isn't about fact. A lot of time being right is about opinion. So God gave us freedom of choice. He gave us the freedom to choose. I think that whenever we're trying to inhibit somebody's freedom of choice, trying to prevent them from being able to choose, I think we're actually doing Satan's work. Listen. How is God supposed to know his people? He knows his people by our hearts. What is the physical manifestation of our hearts, our actions? So, and I just want to be clear about this before I say this next thing I'm going to say. So, I believe that if you're in America and you're a part of a minority group of any kind, you have the right to try to keep your community safe. I think that you have that right. I'm not talking about keeping them safe by just murdering. You're on my lawn. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying you have the right to be vigilant. You have the right to want to have the protections of the nation. You have the right to want to practice whatever the thing is that you're practicing that's not harming anybody else in the privacy of your own circle. You have that right. Now, with that being said, I think that we need to remove ourselves from all Democrats that want to make it or want to keep it so that we can't fight independently for our black rights. Because the civil rights movement has been incredible. So many different minorities have benefited. Our particular minority group has not. So I would like for our specific sector or to be removed. I want everyone to keep fighting. If they would like to stay together in the group and stay bunched up and do what they do what you do. Go get them, Avengers. But I would like And not because I don't want to work together with other groups, but because other groups seem to actually be getting some kind of protections. And we don't. But when our pain gets displayed, everyone benefits except for us. But when their pain gets displayed, it's not reciprocated. We don't benefit. Their community benefits. So we need to be a little bit more isolated as people who identify as American blacks. And just so we can be clear, I was thinking about this. They got the fight going on in Florida. Let me explain to y'all real quick how this whole book fight started. For the people who were not paying attention, let me explain to you real quick how this book thing started. Listen, pay attention. They were trying to get LGBTQ books into the schools of Florida. The Floridian politicians were saying, no, we're not doing this. What the Democrats then did, shout out to Roach, Ganju Roach, salute. What the Democrats then did was took a bill, because they was proposing a new bill or whatever the case is, and attached to their civil rights bill, the bill that was supposed to be for civil rights, an LGBTQ community bill that put their books into schools. Now, if you want to know what some of these books say, they basically just teach kids, some of them. I've heard a pastor reading one of these books to a committee. And what the book was for, apparently, was teaching children how to arouse themselves and each other. So I have no idea why this would be in a school. This is bananas. In any regard, the Democrats want it there. It is what it is. So what ends up happening is this. Listen and pay attention. When they weren't able to put the books in, they drafted up some kind of new bill or legislation, whatever the heck it is. Inside of that particular civil rights bill or legislation, they also put where they could put the LGBTQ community books in the school. Now, I know for a fact not everybody in their community agrees with that bullshit. There's people that do, I'm sure. But I know for a fact everybody in their community don't agree with that bullshit, because I've seen people that's part of the LGBTQ community speak out against this shit. Just so we could be clear. I've seen them speaking out against this shit. So this is not a people are gay and they want to, all gay people want to turn your kids gay. I'm pretty sure most of them ain't even thinking about that shit. Most of them got their own thing going on. What the fuck, man? In any regard, putting this legislation in the freaking so they could bring the books in. So now what the Republicans did was make it so that, you know, it was too hard to get books removed out of the schools once they was put into the schools, so they made it easier. They made it so that all you need is for one parent to complain. The reason why they did that was, I'm assuming this part right here. This part I'm assuming. This part I do not know. I'm assuming. The reason why I'm assuming they did that is because, one, it was so hard to get the books removed from already. And two, probably getting books removed just went through so much bureaucracy. It probably took like more than a year to get the books removed. The new legislation that they made it so that once the book is complained about, it gets yanked off of all of the schools, out of all of the schools' bookshelves. So that's how they was trying to keep the LGBTQ community shit out of there. But what happened was, as soon as the thing got in, the first one that was pulled off the bookshelf was a black book. As soon as that happened, the first thing I thought was the Democrats did that. But hold on. Besides that, put that to the side for a second. Ooh, I was about to tell you about something. No, I'll discuss that. I'll stay on this real quick. So, because I'm not all the way to the point yet. I'm not all the way to the point yet, by the way. This is just all. I'm making all of these other points, but I'm not to the main point, just so we can be clear. Oh, but also I just want to say something. So they're taking these books out of the schools, right? And this is just something I just thought was interesting. So they're taking these books out the schools about slavery, right? And I just thought about something. You have all of these people swearing up and down that the Bible ain't real. Bible's real. We're not doing that. But you got all of these people swearing up and down that the Bible ain't real. What if our American history isn't real, fam? What if what we think happened in America isn't what happened in America, fam? What if the books that's in the schools that's been teaching us about slavery has actually been put there to indoctrinate us into a past that never actually happened? I'm going to tell you something that I've always thought was interesting. So in the school I went to, I was when I went to I got into third grade, fourth grade, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. I was in what is considered to be the smartest class that the school gave for those particular grades, right? They literally took me out of the second smartest class in third grade and put me after like a week and put me into the first smartest class. Literally, I don't know if that was just a numbers thing or what, to be honest with you. Could have just been a numbers thing, fam. In any regard, I always noticed that no matter how fast we were, no matter how good my classes were, no matter how quickly we moved through the book, we never got to the whole entire books, especially when it dealt with history. We never did the whole book, fam. I mean, yeah, I know I was okay, so it was weird. Hold on, let me explain something real quick. So it was weird. So we had 2 years, I think it was, that the book that we got in like third grade, I think, or fourth grade, I think it was third grade. We also used for fourth grade. It was like the same book. So I'm not talking about necessarily, I guess, and it wasn't for history, it was like for math or some shit. So I'm not necessarily talking about situations like that where you had a book that it was broken up. The two halves of it was broken up to go over two different school years. That actually was a thing that happened. That shit was crazy. But generally speaking, it would just be like grade 4 or whatever on the fucking book somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? Or advanced or some shit like that, generally speaking. But one of those grades, we had one book that was like that. I can't remember which one it was. In any regard, what if they've been teaching us the wrong history of America? And now those books are getting pulled off the shelves. And now we're angry and we want the books back on the shelves because we like the fake history. I want to explain something real quick. You really think that there's a better chance that they brought millions of slaves from Africa, not just to America, but to all of these other places that's all the way on the other side of the world compared to them? Or that some of us, we already was indigenous to the fucking area? Which one you think is more possible, fam? Do you really know what the Wild Wild West was, fam? Do y'all really understand that people think that the Wild Wild West was the way it was all because of Hollywood? Hollywood changed our whole depiction of the Wild Wild West, man. Did you know that actual cowboys was black? The first actual cowboys was black, and if we was back then and we saw them, we'd think they was blood because they all carried a red scarf. So whenever you see anyone in any movie that's a cowboy flick and they got a red scarf on, they're signifying cowboy because the cowboys wore the red scarves. Did you notice? And it was the first ones was black. They literally was cattle herders, I believe, like in Texas or some shit. Did you know this? Go look it up, because there's going to be people saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. Go look it up. You know, most of these heroes that you see in these freaking movies, not all of them, but most of them were actually the fucking villain of the story, fam. They just telling the story in a way that makes the villain look like the hero. That's it. All you got to do is switch a couple of words around. All you got to do is switch perspectives of motivations. That's it. You can make a good guy look like a bad guy in a split second. And for everybody that say that I'm just talking, I don't know what I'm talking about. One of the movies that they did it the best in was Black Panther. Another movie that did it incredibly well was The Joker, or Joker. All you have to do is know how to switch perspectives whenever you tell them whatever the story is. In any regard. What do y'all think? Okay, so when I was growing up, we had Black history books that never talked about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Why is that? In any regard. So they're fighting to get these LGBT books out of the school. That's what this whole thing is about. The Democrats lost this fight, fam. They lost the fight. And now since they lost the fight, instead of just trying to figure out a way to backtrack and get back to the point zero, they rather just try to keep fighting so they can keep the LGBTQ community books in the schools. Salute, Sebastian Tompkins. Appreciate you. The Democrats, man. And they're going to tell you to vote for these guys. You're going to be voting for people. Okay, so let's back up off of that for a minute. Can we back up off of that for a minute? Give me 1 second. So I want to talk about the book issue real quick so you can understand my perspective. So if they have all of these books that's talking about how we slaves from Africa and they're feeding our children that we are slaves from Africa, when I was a kid, I didn't think I was, and I was learning this shit in school. I didn't believe it. I'm just telling you what it is, hand to God. I didn't believe it. We don't look alike, fam. I could look at an African person and look at a black person and tell the difference. We don't look alike. You're trying to tell me over 3 generations we just look completely different? I'm not trying to shit on our African brothers. Shout out to those guys. Big up. I'm just saying we different people, man. And I literally knew this as soon as they started teaching this shit in school. I mean, maybe this is just stuff that I heard at home. I could have just heard this at home from my older brothers, and it just solidified in my brain at this point. So then when they taught it in school, it's just something I rejected. That's why we also got to be careful about the things that we say at home to our children. Just throw that out there. So that could be what happened. I'm not saying I'm some kind of messiah, and even as a kid, I knew this thing. I'm not saying that. I could have just heard it at home. I had older brothers. But the point in which I'm making is, you look at them. They don't look like us, man. And I'm fine with that. They also got some beautiful women. Not for nothing. But that's a whole nother note. So I'm fine with that. So are you trying to tell me that these books that's in this school quite possibly could have been giving us a fake history in the first place? So this could be God's doing, fam. This could literally just be God's doing. I'm advising you, if you care about your don't vote for any Democrats that's pushing that particular initiative, because I think that that's the example that we're supposed to pay attention to, that shows a thing, and we have to be on the side of a thing. I am not a DeSantis, whatever the hell that guy's name is, fan. He's just... So I'm not his fan. I just want to be clear on this. I don't know what to tell you. But, and, not but. Yeah, I don't know. No, his name is DeSantis. I'm not his fan. Shout out to him. Not a real shout out. I think you say DeSantis. It's DENAS, pardon me, DANTIS. I know, DE, what? God. D fucking DESANTIS. What the hell, fam? Anyway, in any regard. So yeah, I am not a fan of that, guys. I'm just... Oh man, we gotta do better. We gotta do better. I'm not a fan of that. We gotta do better. Like, we really gotta just put our foot down. We gotta do better. This is... I don't know what to tell you. This is what the fuck. We gotta do better. So y'all better be mindful who y'all vote for, because who you vote for is... And this is... Okay, so I'm going to say something. So I was young. I was probably like before I was before voting age. So one thing I'll say I'm fortunate of, and I want to say shout out to my brother Tashi. This is something I'm extremely fortunate of. He introduced and spoke about the Bible a lot. So I literally... The Bible's something that has been a common topic in my family or my household or whatever, like damn near my whole entire life. And there was a point, because he used to be a 5%. So there was a point when he stopped being a 5%. When he was Israelites. And he brought those teachings around. So I want to give him a shout out for that. That's one. Two, okay, so I've always, and I'm not saying that it works this way, just so we can be clear. I'm not saying it works this way, but I've always thought it was dangerous to vote. I thought it was dangerous as far as our souls is concerned, as far as our covenant with God is concerned. Oh, man. I always thought it was dangerous. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm not saying that at all. I just want to be clear. As always, I say just find the candidate that suits what helps your household. That's what you should be looking for. You should be looking for the candidate that best supports your personal situation, your household. That's what you should be looking for. So I'm not one of those people that's saying don't vote. I'm just explaining to you why I believe it's so important that you be mindful of who you vote for. So I've always been under the impression before my voting years that when we vote, what we're doing is we're agreeing to whatever this person is saying that they're planning on doing. We're agreeing with those things being done. So it's like let's say you are a Adolf Hitler supporter and you're agreeing with his politics. So that means that all of that bullshit that he did, you're agreeing with. And you're standing behind that. And you go talk to God. God is going to ask you about that shit. That's how you need to look at politicians, man. That's my point. That's how you need to look at politicians. People don't look at politicians like that. People look at the other person and decide if they want them to lose. They don't look at that person and decide if they want that person to win. That's an issue. That's a problem. That needs to be rectified. That's a real conversation that we need to have as a community. And communities need to start voting together. That's where your power is. Voting together. That's where your power is. As long as they got me voting different than my neighbor who votes different from that neighbor, then that neighbor, then that neighbor, then that neighbor, that means that our collective don't have no real power. But if our collective all voted for the same freaking person, we create power amongst our little collective. Then that collective grows, then that collective grows. Now you can go to a politician. And you can say, look, my community needs a couple of things. How many of them is this? 10,000 of us. Huh? Really? What do y'all said y'all needed? You create a union. You understand? In any regard. I can't tell if y'all can see my comments. Darkwing, if you're still in here, do me a favor. Drop a comment. If I don't reply to it, send me a message over Instagram so I can see if you dropped a comment or not. In any regard. Also, if you are enjoying the show at all this morning, you could always pull up to the Cash App. There you go, pin right there to support the channel. You could always pull up to the Cash App. Also, we have a basketball tournament to actually go to today. It's a basketball tournament today. Also, I've been speaking with some people around here, and we're going to try to get a basketball tournament. Or they have a basketball tournament that they're going to be doing. I'm going to try to bring it to y'all. But if we're really, really fortunate, maybe we'll be able to make a basketball tournament, a separate one, another one. And we can get some stuff going on. I actually got to go speak to some people. This is another reason why I need to go. I'm not going to go speak to people. Like, yeah, ma, hey, you a whole boss. Go speak to those people. So that's why I keep trying to tell y'all. Stop hating on chicks that say they a boss. We need bosses. Not that the dude don't want a boss. The dude just don't want a chick that thinks she's the boss of him. Shit. One of the best type of chicks to freaking date, especially for a guy like me, is a boss. I just don't want no chick that's gonna be the boss of me. No man wants that, by the way. Just so we can be clear. And if he does want that, I mean, probably he also wants another man. Just saying. Throwing that out there. Not saying that's a bad thing, a good thing, or anything thing. I said that as a point of fact, not a point of opinion. In any regard. It was a joke. No, I'm not seeing the comments. If you can, I'm gonna need you to act. I'm gonna really need you to admin heavy, and then I'll wait a minute and see if it fixes. No, I can't see nothing. I can't see any comments. No new comments. The last comments I see is these fucking trolls tripping. You know, so maybe they hacked the page. I don't know. Maybe my page is hacked again. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, in any regard. Yeah, I would love to do that. The tournament. So we have a tournament to go to today. Pull up to the Cash App if you would like some promotion today specifically, because obviously our Instagram is going to be doing, our Instagram is going to do numbers today, obviously, because I'm getting the footage for the content. Also, if you want promotion directly onto our YouTube, we're going to be, it's a tournament at West 4th, fan. So we're going to be doing some promotion down there. We're going to be doing some stuff down there. So if you want any promotion, make sure you contact me. With that being said, yo, look, check this out. So, and I want to be clear about this. One of the main reasons why I always encourage people to support whatever community that they belong to, you know, whether you're uh, black, whether you're Caucasian, whether you're Hungarian, I don't know what you are, whether you're or Asian, Oriental is slang. Do not use that. My apologies for even saying that. You know, unless you're Mexican or whatever the heck you are, right? I think that you should be pro whatever you belong to. Don't get this confused. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that sometimes people don't responsibly uh, I don't think people are always responsible with the manner in which they be pro whoever their people are. Just so we can be clear, I don't think people are always responsible. I think sometimes people are really irresponsible. And in those times where people are really, really irresponsible, I think that there's a lot of problems are had, and I think that we need to be mindful of that. So am I never wanted to seem or sound like when I'm saying I love my people and I want my people to do better. I never wanted to sound like at any time that I'm trying to speak negatively on any people, whether it's a people that is a race, whether it's a people that's a religion, or whether it's a people that is a you know whatever community they belong to. I would just never want to do that. That's not what we're doing over here. In any regard, we were talking about Taxstone. That's what the show was about. We also were speaking on Fetty Wap. That's something else the show was about. Um, Once again, Fetty Wap got 6 years. We were supposed to be there. We weren't able to be there. Fetty Wap got 6 years for everybody that don't know. Besides the 6 years that Fetty Wap got, he's already served some time, so he's gonna quite possibly. I don't think he's gonna be doing all of the time. Think I should just start it over. Hey, Darkwing, you think I should just start the live over? Just make a second live? What time is it? DM me. You think I should just start the live over? Oh, also, shout out to Sean Satoro. Uh, his book, Dummy Boy to the Kashi 6 9 and the Nine Trey Bloods. It's a complex presents book. Shout out to Sean Satoro. One of the on the back punch says a quote of punches quotes is in the back. It says a clear and concise portrayal of a colorized and overly salacious story. Sean finds a way to navigate through the smoke and mirrors and get a clear and clarified view of the story. Uh, of the story while simultaneously offering an honest stance. He showed a flawless story of how the power of quick fame and money can totally distort the balance in the majority of people's lives. Of course, money changes everything. Money allows you to be who you are. Power allows you to be who you are. A lot of times people aren't who they are because they are busy trying to survive. So what money does is money allows you to stop being in survival mode. So a lot of times a person can't be who they are at their greatest because they're too busy trying to survive. So it is what it is. It is what it is. In any regard, I can't even see no names of no people. Um, Yeah, I'm gonna restart. Be right back.